Public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act has been given by the Board Secretary on March 16th, 2022 in the following manner. Posted notice on the school bulletin board at the Administration Building, transmitted to the Courier Post, Philadelphia Inquirer, and the Clerk of Cherry Hill Township. I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask you to join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Sugars, would you do the roll call, please?
Here. Mrs. Stratton.
Here.
Mrs. Fleischer. Ms. Friedel.
Here.
Mr. Mayor. Dr. Rude.
Here.
Ms. Stern.
Here.
Mrs. Tong.
Here.
Mr. Avadia.
Here. Okay, we have no board recognitions tonight, no presentations. So we're going to turn it over to start with Dr. Malash for administrative reports.
Thank you, Mr. Avadia. We do have two administrative reports this evening. The first one is on summer reading update, and I'm excited to turn it over to Dr. Mahan, Dr. Morton, and Ms. McCartney. I think they're just grabbing Ms. McCartney is going to be in momentarily. And I know that I saw as the board members were getting situated for tonight that you brought the your pre-summer reading books back to be able to discuss and talk about this evening. So thank you for doing that. What's up? Good evening, Ms. McCartney. How are you? Very well. Don't be sorry at all. It's nice to see you. So I'm pleased to reintroduce you all to Ms. Allison McCartney, who has served as one of our curriculum supervisors. She's actually in an interim assistant principal role at Rosa right now since Ms. Vospikian's retirement. But Ms. McCartney, as she juggles lots of balls at the same time, has continued on with her work with the summer reading program. So we're excited that she was able to join us this evening for some very good discussion. So Ms. McCartney, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you very much. So in February, I came and shared with you, 7 of the books that are proposed for summer reading. 6 of them are not board approved. So I asked for volunteers to read them and review them for us. So I'm hoping I can get some feedback from you today about whether or not we can move forward with those books. I don't know if there's any volunteers to start.
So I'll start. I have 2 of them, and then I have Joel's or Mr. Mayer's write-up of his.
Mhm.
So I had Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. And so this book had 3 or 4 really big themes in it. It's a little bit tragic and heartfelt. It is age appropriate for high school. It dealt with sisterhood, grief and loss, and it also brought in areas of discrimination and gender bias. And a lot of, around the gender bias piece, there was a lot of victim blaming within culture, and it's culturally relevant in the sense because in Latino culture, that is a thing. So the victim blaming piece is around the young girls being pointed in the space where they're being made to feel like they're more provocative, just in the way they're clothing and everything. So if there is conversations and and students do decide to read this one, I suggest there's follow-up conversations, especially around females, because that victim blaming and sexuality and putting that on a young person, a young girl especially, could be traumatizing. It brings together two sisters, one from the Dominican Republic and one from New York. And through grief of losing their father, they come together and start kind of unraveling their futures and hopes and dreams for to be better and be in a better space. It's a really great book. Acevedo paints a really good story. You do have to pay attention to the characters' outlines. As the characters are developed in the first couple of chapters, you can tell what sister is speaking, but towards the end of it, you're going to have to use those things that you picked up during the beginning of the chapters to identify who's actually talking at the end. So Clap When You Land is a great book. It's an easy read. It's just some of the components are a little bit more, like they have some triggers. Then I read Dragon Hoops. And Yang was, first of all, I was not really looking forward to reading this one because I'm like, okay, so I have no idea. I don't know anything about basketball. But it was actually good that I didn't know anything about basketball because Yang did a phenomenal job of incorporating his struggle in writing this graphic novel, to outlining that he really had no idea the direction of this book. And he pieced in how to write and that component into actually developing the novel. There's components of microaggressions, discrimination. I don't know how he managed to weave in historical immigration processes, discarding and your cultural heritage to become part of a country and assimilating. It also brought in conversations on being culturally understanding around the Sikh religion, and incorporating the history of the development of basketball, women's basketball, integration of the sport. It's such a great book, and it was so easy. I read it because I got sucked into it in like 3 hours. The book was phenomenal. And now I know the history of basketball. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to see me later. But it really does a good job. It's funny. And the graphics are great. So Yang did a phenomenal job in this book. And it's age appropriate. And if I could make a recommendation, if I had the opportunity to, I would suggest actually incorporating this in the social justice curriculum. The components of it in such an easy and smooth way, how Yang develops that conversation. It's not aggressive, and it's just like, these are things that happen that people don't realize are happening in a very kind of like, I guess that language unconsciousness, the unconscious way of not realizing things are impacting. And it all revolves around the court, right? Like around how all these things happen when a player is out in the, in the court or basketball, whatever. Joel read The Love of the Game. He says the overarching lesson is people can do and triumph and succeed despite incredible odds. There's tragedy and evil in it. It's a true story of the power of hope, hard work, inner focus while surrounded by unthinkable evil, survival, and kindness. It's a first person's account told by Dan Grunfield, former college star and professional basketball player, about the struggles and tragedies suffered by his family in Hungary during the Holocaust, focusing primarily on his grandmother who survives and remains close to him to this day, and his personal struggles after suffering a devastating injury and his road back. Basketball isn't the star of the book. It's a vehicle for explaining the value and importance of focus and determination. Similarly, while the book switched back and forth between recent years in America and during World War II in Europe with graphic accounts of the Holocaust atrocities, the focus remains on positivity, survival, kindness, and strong family ties. Bottom line, he says, is the book, despite some serious content, is easy to read and seems appropriate for high school age learners. The lessons are powerful and certainly appropriate in our current environment. There's also a strong subcurrent applauding the value of inclusion, celebrating diversity and acceptance, which aligns well with the district goals and social emotional learning. 2 thumbs up for me. Do you want to?
I don't really want to go after yours. So I read, figure out why there's such an echo. I read The Patron Saints of Nothing by Randy Rebay. So it was a really good read. And I have to admit that I had to read the last pages of it right before this meeting because I couldn't turn the book in if I didn't finish it. I think it's an age appropriate book. It does have some themes that have some trauma. So there is some human trafficking. There is drugs, drug wars, death of a young person. But it also touches on the main character who is one parent is Filipino and one parent is white. And almost like that internal struggle of not really knowing his one part of his culture and experiencing that part of his culture and the uncomfort of not knowing that culture. A little bit of language, like I said, there was human trafficking, there was some sexual assault. I mean, and it was touched on very lightly. It's not anything that was graphic, but there are themes in that. And I guess my only thought would be, again, kind of like Ms. Arroyo's comments with Clap When You Land. Some of this may bring some emotions up in some students, and how would we work through with them things that they may be experiencing, because we don't know if they've had some kind of trauma that they can relate to through the book. But that's any book, I guess. So, but it was a really good read. I enjoyed it. I think it was age appropriate for high school. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Oh, go ahead.
well, mine is really short because Mrs. Arroyo assigned me a book, handed me a book in the parking lot, knowing full well I'm a very slow reader. And it's a struggle for me, which is why I tend to read very short things like articles. But she luckily handed me The Martian, which I had a leg up because it was one of the favorite movies in my family with my kids. But it's a humorous book. It's an intense book at times. It kind of leaves you on your edge of your seat. Told at times from first person, which is kind of neat. It's about astronauts who go on a trip to, I don't want to spoil too much, but they go into outer space on a mission and something goes terribly awry. Someone gets stranded, which is very stressful. And of course, it's there's decision making, there's resilience that's addressed, which I think is pretty neat. A lot of science and math woven in, which I think some people would really relate to and enjoy, and about kind of coming together, problem solving, and also kind of, caring about the life of a single human being. So I think it's relatively lighthearted. It's funny. There's a little bit of language, but other than that, I think it's pretty benign. I think it's a great story. Again, for someone like me, it's nice that I also have seen the movie. So a little bit of a help with someone who doesn't always enjoy and stay engaged in reading so easily. So it was a great book.
Wonderful.
Apparently I gave them both The Martian. I don't know how I had 2 copies of that, did I?
No, because you didn't give me the copy because I had it on my Kindle.
Oh, okay. No, there you go. You're off the hook. I'll give you another one.
I didn't know a different one.
And Jen had one, but I didn't get her report back.
Okay.
So the four that we had tonight were the ones we reported out on.
So the only one there that's not board approved is House on the Cerulean Sea, which it won an Alex Award. It's technically an adult book, but it's good for younger audiences. And I actually think out of all of those choices up there, this one is the tamest in some of the topics. So I can follow up and if one of you can review that. But thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I appreciate hearing that you've been able to pull out some of these themes. Our theme this year is Fantastic Journey. So all of the books have some sort of journey on that. And that was Dragon Hoops I loved because it was the weaving of so many different journeys coming together. So while they might address some social issues or some of the resilience or social justice topics that we've had in the past, what I really like about all these books is that they end on a note of hope. there's a little bit of a silver lining, or like a positive note at the end, which I think is important for summer reading. So what I will do then is wait for feedback on House on the Cerulean Sea. And I will update the draft that you have in front of you. So this is something we did last year, just to give an age recommendation, but also to lay it out there for parents and students. Here are the topics that are in this book. If you know that this is something you're not comfortable reading, you have an option to choose another one. So I'll make sure that that is updated with your feedback. And we will also narrow it down to just 5 books. The feedback from this year was that they loved having the choice, but 7 was a lot. So we'll move it down just to 5 books and make sure that we have a variety of genres to offer students. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And next, we'll turn it over to Dr. Melange for the next administrative report.
Thank you, Mr. Avadia, and thank you, Ms. McCartney, for leading the discussion, and to the board members for doing all of the reading. We really do appreciate that. Encourage everybody to take time to choose some of the summer reading books. One of the great activities, especially during the course of the summer, is to read the books along with the children. Great time for discussion with the kids, regardless of their grade levels, just to find out what it is that they're looking at and talking about. Now I'm excited to turn over to Dr. Morton, who, as you know, as our assistant superintendent, has been leading the charge with our Road Forward Committee. He has convened quite an austere group of humans to meet and discuss what we're doing with the Road Forward from last summer until now. The committee had a meeting a little more than a week ago, and Dr. Morton's excited to do a brief update for everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Melange. So the Road Forward Committee met on February 14th. It was probably our most streamlined and shortest meeting that we've had the entire year thus far. And I believe that these updates will probably be the most streamlined and the shortest that I've had the opportunity to share thus far. So we've reduced quite a bit of our COVID mitigation strategies. I just wanted to just review those just to make sure everyone's on the same page. So first and foremost, the latest Cali COVID activity level report came out last week, and we have continued in a positive direction. We are now in the green in the low category. So this is the first time in quite a while that our region has been in this category. So things continue to improve and improve dramatically. So obviously we went mask optional already. Contact tracing has been halted. We halted the distribution of notification letters as well. I'm not sure if we actually publicly announced it, but lockers are available. That's lockers for students to put their books away, and also for PE class as well. We've lifted the COVID-related bathroom restrictions. Now, there still may be bathroom monitoring in place at some of the secondary schools. That's a matter of discretion, administrative discretion at the school. But the bathroom restrictions that we had in place prior to have been lifted. Visitors to buildings had to do temperature checks and go through a checklist. We are no longer doing the temperature checks. That's been halted. And travel quarantines. So the need to quarantine after travel has been halted as well. The expectation is that in classrooms, supplies should be available. There shouldn't be bookcases and bookshelves still covered. We're moving forward. Things have, again, improved dramatically as evidenced by this latest Cali report. And we're just excited to be able to move forward and to see things begin to come back to our new normal. That's it.
Thank you. Oh, yes, question from Ms. Friedel.
Dr. Morton, just one question. With the locker availability, are students going to just be provided a locker as they used to pre-COVID, or is this again going to be by request? And the reason I ask is that I have teenagers and they will never request one. However, if they are given one, perhaps they might use it.
Yeah, at this point, it still is by request for belongings being put away. I believe at the high schools, for phys ed class, they're trying to reintroduce the idea of going into the locker room and putting belongings away in the locker rooms. They aren't distributing locks and things along those lines, but they will secure the space and to try to reacclimate the kids to that process.
Any other questions from board members or student reps? All right. Would any board members like to share correspondence then is next? Ms. Stern.
So I just wanted to share briefly, I went to a couple of New Jersey School Board Association trainings, and it was a pretty interesting one. It was kind of a follow-up to one I went to last year, which was interesting. I think we're always looking to find how do we find funding from sources other than state aid and taxpayers and federal aid. So I went to one on, it was called, I hope I get this whole name right. Hold on one second. Funding IT innovation, securing and maximizing federal funding opportunities. So it was really about, and a lot of it was stuff I don't know a whole lot about, but I talked to Mrs. Sugars about it, and we'll be sharing information that I think might be helpful because it's really about securing funding and grant opportunities that we may not be so on our radar for IT infrastructure, for cybersecurity, Mr. Plavinsky, looking over at you, thinking of you the whole time I was in it, and other ways to almost kind of also kind of leverage and stack funding sources to really benefit our students and our staff. So all, software updates, all that kind of stuff. And there's lots and lots of government funding available for this kind of stuff. So hopefully we'll be able to take advantage. There's a consultant who helps districts kind of strategize and prioritize how to do this. So I'm excited that, as a board member, that was something hopefully I can just, assist the district in bringing information. So that was it.
Okay. I had the honor to attend the Air Force Junior ROTC Military Ball. Really lovely event. Mosh and I were there. And then, the people who run the program, it was really, really nice. One of the nice things about it is that it was a combined event with Pennsauken, and they had some board members. So we did a little, meet and greet. Really nice. There was, a regret until I do it is there was, they do this thing where they prepare this grog, and there's all sorts of, I brought them, we should actually install this for board meetings. But they prepare this, like, I think it's supposed to be disgusting, but I think it was actually okay. Like nobody actually threw up or anything. But like, there are all these rules, and these are the rules. And I'm thinking about this for the board. So maybe a board retreat in the future, I'll pass it around. But basically, like if you violate those rules, you're drinking. And so not alcoholic. These are children. Yeah, please. But anyway, so it's very interesting. The theme this year was toilet water. And so it really worked out really nice, but everyone was, looked great and was great. And it was really like charming event. My first time going. So I do encourage everyone to please attend this and don't break these rules, or else you too. I mean, I was on time. I just want to go on the record. I mean, I didn't break any of the rules. Yeah, at least. So anyway, I didn't have to drink. Some people chose to drink. That was not me. Dr. Malash and I in solidarity. Neither of us drank. But anyway, so if you do go, please do keep in mind these rules. They are very serious about them. And it was really just a very charming event. So thanks for the invitation. Any other correspondence? All right. That is going to move us to student representative reports. I want to say, I think East went last time. So is that right? West?
Yep, that's correct.
Hi, it's Kevin Salvatorelli from West. Oh, that's feedback. Where's the speaker? Over there. Okay, so starting off with our school news, this year, West is continuing its tradition of allowing seniors to post their commitments to college or the military on a mural in the hallway connecting B and C wings near the front of the school. This tradition celebrates the achievements of West students as they step into the next part of their life. NJ GPA testing is over for juniors. Despite the scheduling changes, West students and staff remain flexible, and we were able to ensure smooth sailing through the entire week of testing. And also the Coriel Science Fair. West students in West Advanced Topics in Computer Science class and Research and Science classes are presented at the Coriel Science Fair this past weekend. Both courses had multiple students place, and one student won a full ride scholarship. In activities news, the middle school peer leaders, as well as some students from East, will be coming to West for training and an opportunity to meet their crosstown peers. The peer leaders program aims to help incoming freshmen better adjust to the high school environment. West students in the Athletes Against Bullying Club went to Rosa last week and visited each of the 6th grade classrooms. They had an interactive presentation about what bullying is, how to identify it, and strategies to become an upstander in bullying scenarios. We are hoping to bring these presentations to the other middle schools soon. The Cherry Hill West PTA will be running bingo games on April 22nd to benefit Project Graduation. Project Graduation is a post-graduation party held by the PTA to help ensure safety and good decision-making after graduation for seniors. And performing arts news, our production of Radium Girls just wrapped up this weekend, and the West community is now looking towards SpongeBob the Musical, which will go up in May. Our lab theater production and one acts are also coming up. In instrumental music news, the West Jazz Ensemble completed the NAJE New Jersey State Prelims on March 9th at Southern Regional High School. The band was one of the top scoring ensembles of the evening and received a silver rating. They also won the trophy for most outstanding trumpet section. The band qualified for the New Jersey State Championships, which will be held on April 30th at Burlington City High School. And congratulations to all West Jazz Ensemble members. The West Band Director, Mr. Mark, is directing all South Jersey junior high school band this year. West will also be hosting the Region 3 Jazz Ensembles rehearsal and concerts. That includes senior high jazz, junior high jazz, and jazz choir. The concert will be on April 3rd at 3 p.m. ROTC news. The military ball with Pennsauken High School was held on March 11th. It was a night filled with food, fun, dancing. Students from both schools enjoyed the famed Grog Bowl. ROTC students will present the colors at the Flyers game on April 5th at 7 p.m. Tickets are $45 and can be purchased from Chief Boucher and A5. In other news, Stories, Soul, and Sapper. On April 6th, at 6:30 p.m. in the West Library, please join Project Lit, Latinos at West, and West Culinary Arts for Stories, Soul, and Savor, sponsored by CHEA. We will discuss with the Fire on High and explore the intersection of food and cultures in literature. Snacks will be served, and the event is open to students in grades 6 through 12, staff, and community members. And that is all. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. So like every time, let's start with school updates. Our senior trip is extremely close. We leave at the actual break of dawn on Thursday and we return on Monday, midnight-ish. We go to Magic Kingdom, Universal, and all the wonderful parks, which I'm quite excited for. Next, our Thespian Society put on the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee over the course of the last few weeks. Last weekend and the weekend before that, it was a great success with a mix of students, parents, and teachers all coming to watch the play, and I really enjoyed it. Tickets for junior prom are currently on sale until March 25th. This year's J prom will be on April 7th, and I've heard that a lot of students are going, so I'm excited to see the turnout for that. Junior testing, the NJGPA went all through last week, and each day the juniors tested for 2 hours in the morning and then went about their day normally the rest of the day. Our school was chosen for an extra section, so instead of having just 4 sections, we had 5 sections, which took a little bit extra on Friday. But other than that, it went super smooth, and yeah. We had a wonderful blood drive with many volunteers donating blood. Many students go and donate blood, especially now with the blood crisis that's going on nationally over the past 10 years. And also, to finish this section, I want to say that I am very proud of the sophomore class. They put together a drive at the beginning of March to collect necessities for Ukrainian refugees. Students donated things like sleeping bags, blankets, non-perishable foods, diapers, everything that people would need to just survive. And I had the pleasure every time I walked by the vestibule, the mountain of stuff grew every single day. And I'm very proud of our students for doing that. And I want to thank everyone who donated. As for clubs, the Paws Club or the Pets and Animals Welfare Club had an animal show yesterday where students could participate for $2. With the help of Hog Wild Hedgehogs, Paws was able to showcase animals ranging from snakes to hedgehogs, and students can go and hold them and they would learn about them and stuff like that. And all that went to helping animals in need. For culture clubs, they continue to prepare for MCD. MCD is April 14th. Yeah. And they continue to do fundraisers for costumes and all of their needs. Indian Cultural Society had their donut sale, and Vietnamese Culture Club had their apparel sale. Student government put on our 3-on-3 March Madness basketball tournament with teams up to 4 people. The tickets to enter the tournament were $5, and all that money goes to fund a college scholarship for a senior. So the big guys, that's the team name, was Jake Atlas, Zach Stein, and Jay Green, who won the tournament yesterday, and we are very happy about that. Finally, our Interact Club has started its pen pal program where high school students can have pen pals from elementary schools, mine's from 1st grade, and write about their favorite colors, the names of their dogs and their fish, and draw pictures back and forth to each other. And then last section is our student activist shout outs. Students such as Crystal are currently working on improving the lack of feminine sanitary bins in our bathrooms. Even after contacting maintenance, there was still nowhere to safely discard feminine products. It's a little bit unsanitary to just throw them out in the open, if that makes sense. So our student body has taken that on. Next, one of our students wrote an article on sportsmanship and the definition of good sportsmanship at our school, especially after our microaggressions lesson, using personal conditions and things that people just don't have any control over to be derogatory and so others is unacceptable. And our school does not stand with those values, and neither should any student in our school as a representation of our school. We must respect all points of views, experiences, and know where the line is and not to cross it. And finally, to finish it out, our student voice committee is a large committee in our school that works to improve student experience in all ways, especially in smaller areas. With students like Grant Yoon, who have started to work on gym exceptions for student athletes and coffee sales in the mornings, which Grant Yoon has contacted people like Dr. Covington and Dr. Martin and have continued to do their plans and stuff like that. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Ariana, for taking us to the scene. Magic Kingdom is fantastic. So have a wonderful time. And we'll have to do a photo collage next update. All right. So great. Next, we're going to move to first public comment. This is one of the ones I traditionally get wrong. All right. So first public comment, here's the, okay, no, here we are. There will be 2 opportunities for public comment this evening. See, it's written right there. The first public comment section is for board action agenda items only, 13 through 16. There will be another public comment section for any topic at the end of the meeting. If you are a student in the district, you may comment on any agenda item during the first public comment period. Students will be given an opportunity to speak first. In order to make that happen, if you are online, please indicate you are a student. Would be wonderful. And we'll of course alternate. Let me go back. If you would like to speak now, please identify the agenda item and clearly state your name and municipality. We will alternate between here and in the room. See, it's all right there, man. All right, and then I'm going to read a quick thing before we start, which is to say that Cherry Hill is a community that values education, and educational topics often bring out passionate response. The Cherry Hill Board of Education supports a school climate in which our diversity is a source of strength and all are included. Respect is foundational, and how we treat you, how we treat each other, and how we support our administration and staff in their essential work. Please join us in practicing the utmost respect for all. And by convention, we start in the room. And seeing nobody, okay, we start in the room. Floor is yours.
I'm Christy Bedron for Cherry Hill, and I'm doing 15-3 for Dr. Hogan. I just wanted to thank Dr. Mahan for doing an amazing job. You did a great job finding a wonderful principal. We are looking forward to working with him, and I just wanted to say thank you for the board and for everyone. So we look forward to working. He met our kids, which was wonderful. So he seems very enthusiastic. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will go to Dr. Podowitz.
My name is Jeff Podowitz, and I live in Cherry Hill. And this is public comment 114.6, resolution for the award of change orders 1920-36, exterior wall reconstruction and related work at Cherry Hill East, 12920. It appears that $150,000 was added to the cost. The construction of the cost appears to be a total of $5.1 million. My questions was this the original cost? Have there been other additions previously to the original cost? I found that out with the $500,000 tennis courts, that's what happened. So that's one question. And I do recall a discussion previously concerning the exterior wall reconstruction and related work at High School East, with a cost totaled between $12 million and $17 million. Is this approximately $5.1 million? Is it part of that 12 to 15 million, or is it an additional $5.1 million, making a total cost of $12 to $20 million for the exterior wall recommendation reconstruction? I just wanted to say that you have to put this in context. And there was an article that described a building, a 200,000 square foot building, Cumberland County Technical Education Center, and it was and the cost was $70 million. And that's in an April 22nd, 2019 article in NJ Spotlight entitled "Some New Jersey Districts Pile Up Debt, Building Schools, Others Are Debt Free." So the question is, I got to compare that 12 million or 20 million to a whole building that was built for 70 million. And that was an expensive, considered a very pricey and expensive building. Okay, so just some questions. Hope you answer them. But what was the total cost basically? Was this 5.1 million part of the 12 to 15 million, or is this in addition? Anyway, thank you very much. That's my questions. Bye.
Thank you. We're going to go to gentleman in the front.
Yoni Harris. Well, it feels really good to be back in here after 2 years. Very exciting. I am doing section 15. It's from a couple of the agenda items, starting with the sad ones. There are a lot of amazing educators who will be accepting their retirements from, so hopefully I'm not stealing Dr. Malash's thunder when he does a great job honoring our educators as they step into the next path in their journey. My children were especially impacted by two of them, with Miss Lori Miller, who was just stepping away from the district, who was one of my daughter's first teacher in Cherry Hill, and made a great job welcoming her into the community. And we will really miss her, and would hope more children would have gotten her. But we're kind of sad to miss her. Also, Miss Karen Rockhill, who I've had to work with both professionally with work with the district and also as a parent within Berkeley, has just been truly awesome for my family, and we will miss her. And then finally, Miss Halden, who I never had at Rosa, but who is a juggernaut of an educator's educator, and will be really missed from our community for her work, especially supporting marginalized communities, and just putting herself out there is just incredible. And it's sad to start seeing the teachers who came into Rosa at its start are now starting to step back. I don't think I get any older, and I refuse to believe they get older. So that aside, also wanted to acknowledge the appointments. As Mr. Duran commented, all of us at Kilmer are very excited for Dr. Hogan to get started and really appreciate the administration's due diligence in that hiring process. And I am personally very excited to welcome back Mrs. Metzger to our community, and sad when she left us 2 years ago. We're very glad that you came back home. So welcome back. And it's always great. I think we all know in Cherry Hill, you can leave, but you never really get to leave here. We're one giant community. And so it's really great when we get to bring somebody back home. So thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker may be related. Ilana Yaris, floor is yours.
Alana Yaris, Cherry Hill. I'm speaking as the president of the Barclay PTA on item 15.1. On behalf of the PTA board, I want to say what a loss it is to the Barclay community to lose Ms. Rockhill to retirement. She always worked hard to create a loving environment within the school for the students and with the teachers. Under her leadership, Barclay has become a state and national school of character. She will be missed at Barclay, and we look forward to working with her successor. We hope Ms. Rockhill's successor will bring just as much energy, if not more, to the school to make it a loving and caring environment. With Barclay being the first stepping stone for many learners in the district, especially for our most vulnerable population of students, it is truly one of the most important roles which Ms. Rockhill has taken on with such grace. We wish her much relaxation and success in retirement and hope that even though she is leaving the Barclay community, she isn't leaving the Cherry Hill community.
Thank you. This will end public comment. Gentleman in the front.
Wanted to be cordial. Rick Short, 1002 Charlton Parkway, speaking on behalf of section 14.8. My question is under the budget area. You know, board members, what do you lose sleep over at night? What do you worry about? Do you worry anything? You know, it's your responsibility for the health and safety of 11,000 children. We've heard it before. Rosa needs new carpets from teachers. I've heard it from teachers. Rosa's need new carpet. Maybe they got new carpet. I've been asking now, this is the third year. I don't know. Maybe I missed the thing, but from what I understand, their carpet, it's disgusting. It looks moldy. It's gross. So I don't know if you missed it. Maybe you fixed it. Do you worry about the pavement this is the third year again at Carusi, the area where the handicap access is? Who's going to trip and fall on the same crack that I've been talking about for 3 years? Who's going to fall in the kindergarten area at Kingston? Same area. These aren't like entire things. And you have fixed Joyce Kilmer. You've redone the sidewalks there. You recently redone sidewalks at East last year. You did Cherry Hill West recently, but they were all separate projects. It's not millions of dollars. It's probably like what's $20,000 or $40,000 in sidewalk repairs. Third year. What about door lockdown protocols? There's schools that can't lock your doors in a lockdown. Third year, I'm here saying it. And finally, I just reported to you today that it is a fact that COVID cases are happening 2 times more in East than they are in West. I just kind of discovered this last night. So I started doing a little research. And what I'm finding is that the schools with the highest amount of COVID cases have air ducts on the outside of them. These are the 300 COVID cases that are happening in schools across New Jersey. And it just so happens that Cherry Hill East has outside ductwork. So I ask you, why are we going to spend money for 19 control panels for heating systems? Why aren't we investing in new HVAC in Cherry Hill East that, if COVID comes back around, could cut our cases in half? We could have half as many cases with better HVAC in Cherry Hill East. So I hope you consider this. Like I said, I just kind of put it all together last night when I started adding up numbers. I didn't realize it, but you did have 26 cases at East, and you haven't had any in 5 weeks at West. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move into superintendent comments. Dr. Malash.
Thank you, Mr. Avadia. I appreciate a little bit of time. I am excited. Somebody else mentioned that we are back in the boardroom. This is actually our second board meeting back in the boardroom. We were here last Tuesday evening for the special meeting about the preliminary budget. It's been a little more than 2 years since we convened as a full board and had regular attendance with everybody, here in this room. So it's nice to have everybody back in the room, really to be able to see folks a little bit closer. The board had the opportunity to have discussion where you can see each other's faces as opposed to being stretched out in a long line. And we are continuing, with the broadcast, and folks can continue to call in via Zoom. We do have 2 of our board members who are online with us this evening. Just folks heard, I think, Ms. Tong and Ms. Elmore Stratton during the roll call say that they were here. They are both online with us tonight, just so folks are aware. Just a couple of brief updates. As Ariana talked about, we have begun the state testing season. Some of our high school students took the NJ GPA assessment, which is new for us this year. 50% of the districts were notified that they had to do a field test. That information came through to the district not too long ago, and the students, the juniors who sat for the test, took that test last week. We will continue on in our testing season through the end of May. Dr. Mahan, Dr. Morton, does that sound right? Through the end of May. Information will come out directly from each one of the schools. Our testing calendar is also published. And again, we're getting back into what those expectations are. And this time of year, we are in spring, right? So we have passed the vernal equinox. This is the time of year that the weather gets warmer outside. We have more sunshine later in the day, which is always exciting. And time seems to rapidly pick up speed. As I sit and look at the end of the table at Kevin and Ariana and Sam sitting out in the audience, the seniors that we have had with us throughout the majority of the year will quickly be finishing up their experience. They have very exciting times to look forward to. And I'm looking at a number of our staff members that are sitting in the audience. Their year is going to continue to get really busy from this point, through June 22nd, which is our last day of school. Throughout this time, parents, please make sure you're staying in contact with the school. You're talking with your children about what they learned on a daily basis, what their experiences are. Remember, children respond based on how we respond as adults to different situations. When your child comes home, if you are talking to them about something positive that happened in school, they're going to talk about the positive. If your child comes home and you're asking them if something bad happened or something negative happened, or if you are focused on a negative experience with individual children, your children will also focus on that. Children respond based on how adults respond. So again, it's a good time check at this point in the year as we are in spring. We need to make sure that we're looking at the positive and focusing on that as we move forward through the end of the school year. Please make sure that you are following along the schools and the district in terms of our social media and the information that is being shared. Lots of shows are going on. The Radium Girls just ended. Rosa did Moana, some incredible shows. The spring shows are coming up. There are concerts that will be coming in our spring sports, but the high schools and the middle schools will begin in earnest their competitions as we move through the end of this week. So I encourage you to become involved in the community and see what's going on and stop out and visit us. I'll have some more comments after the board votes on the consent agenda about some of our retirements and about some of our appointments.
Thanks, Dr. Malash. That moves us to our action consent to approve items 13 to 16. And I'm going to move that we do that by consent agenda. Do I have a second? Ms. Friedel, and then before we continue, do people have any comments or questions about 13 through 16 that they'd like to share? And let me just make sure I see our online panelists as well. All right, looks like we are ready to move our consent agenda. And so, Mrs. Sugars, would you open the floor for voting? And while you do that, I can let you know that for item 16.1, I am abstaining from 229184 as well as 228963 this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vadia. The voting is open for board members. You can cast your votes now. If there are any abstentions, we can notate those at this time. Ms. Friedel.
So Ms. Sugars, I need to abstain from 16.1, 21-22-09. And I also need to abstain from item 16.2.
Mrs. Arroyo.
I have to abstain from 15.8 for personal conflict, and then 16.1 and 16.2 for not being in attendance.
Okay, Ms. Stern.
I need to abstain from item 15.3 to avoid a conflict of interest.
Okay. Other than those exceptions that were noted, we have a unanimous yes vote.
Thank you, Mrs. Sugars. I'm going to turn.
Mr. Sugar, I need to abstain 16.1 and 16.2, please. Thank you.
And Dr. Malash had indicated he had comments after, so we'll turn it over to him.
Thank you, Mr. Ovadia. First, in the HR portion of the agenda, under termination of employment, certificated area where we have some teachers that are retiring from Payne, Rosa, and Carusi. And those teachers together have well over 150 years of time that they have worked together in this school district. An incredible investiture of their time and their persona, who they are as individuals. So I'm incredibly grateful to the folks that are retiring. Also to Karen Rockhill, who's the Barclay principal, who will retire at the end of July, effective August 1st, for her service to the district, not just at Barclay, but at Rosa and at Johnson Elementary School. Then also in the HR portion, under the appointments, we have 2 appointments for administrators that are of great significance to us. So I'm very excited to introduce our 2 newest administrators. I'm going to start with Dr. Scott Hogan. And Dr. Hogan, if you would walk up to the podium, let me just tell you a little bit about Dr. Hogan as he approaches the podium. Dr. Hogan is coming to us directly from the South Harrison School District, where he serves as the Chief School Administrator. In his career, he's also been a Director of Curriculum. He's worked on research and assessment. He's been a principal. He's been a teacher. As somebody mentioned, Dr. Mahan ran the process for the hiring at Kilmer Elementary School. We had a wonderful pool of candidates this time for both administrative positions, which is incredibly positive. A very strong pool of candidates. Dr. Hogan certainly distinguished himself among the candidates that came forward. We had a delightful experience. We spent about an hour together to find out more about his background, his experience. So I'm very excited that he was on the agenda tonight. I'm very excited that the board approved him. And it's my great thrill to introduce to you for the first time, Dr. Scott Hogan.
Thank you very much, Dr. Malash, and thank you to the Board of Education, both of you all for giving me this opportunity to join the Cherry Hill family. I'm really excited to be coming on board with all of you. Look really excited for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to, I got a chance to meet our PTO president, and I believe it's the treasurer this evening, and some of our Kilmer students, which was really exciting. I'm reading and hearing about a lot of great things happening in Cherry Hill, so I'm really excited to be diving in coming up in a few months here and getting to jump in and be part of the experience here in Cherry Hill.
Thank you, Dr. Hogan. Do you want to introduce, do you have family with you? I saw you walk in with an entourage.
Yes, I would. I'd like to welcome my family and friends back here and thank you all very much. My husband, my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, and our uncle here, all here as our moral support.
I like it. Listen, family is important. And Scott, I don't know if you noticed, but there are a number of Kilmer staff members that are here tonight. They don't regularly come, but they're here. They're here for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate it.
Welcome, Scott. We're looking forward to you starting.
Thank you, Dr.
And next, I'd like to reintroduce to the board Ms. Rebecca Metzger. Ms. Metzger, if you'd approach the podium. So Ms. Metzger was appointed tonight as the new principal at Beck Middle School. Rebecca returns to us after almost 2 years where she was in Kyiv in Ukraine, most recently working at the embassy, and returned not too long ago, a little bit earlier than she expected to return to the States. but is back here, which worked out for us in terms of the interview process. Ms. Metzger spent almost a decade working in the Cherry Hill School District, originally as an assistant principal at High School West, as a supervisor of special education, then as an assistant principal at High School East. Then Dr. Morton ran the process, for the hiring of the Beck principal. Very strong group of candidates that came forward. There are actually 3 final candidates that he and I spent some time with, talking about their experiences, what they envision for the school. And I'm thrilled that Ms. Metzger was appointed this evening and very much look forward to her beginning in July as the principal at Beck Middle School. So Rebecca.
So it's mostly thank you. So a huge thank you to the interview committee from Beck. It's very hard to be out of your building, to take that time to do the work that it takes to find the right person for your building. So really a huge thank you, and a lot of for their extension of grace. Miss Ennis and Miss Norcus were 2 of the teachers that participated on the panel, and they were very invested, and it was really great to get to know some of the staff at Beck, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know the rest of the Beck staff and community. A thank you to my family for various reasons. My wife and kids are not here right now, but without their support and encouragement, I really probably would have not taken the leap to go forward with this. Thank you to Dr. Malash and Dr. Morton, Mrs. Wethington, Dr. Mahan. So many of the people sitting in this room are my mentors, and it's very awe-inspiring to know that I'll be working alongside and having the opportunity to work in that mentoring relationship. So I'm very appreciative of that. And thank you to the board for your service. It is not an easy task. It is not always a fun task, but the commitment and the support that you provide to the Cherry Hill community and all of the kids and families is tremendous. And if people don't say thank you enough, I will say thank you to you every single day. And lastly, I can't wait to get started. I'm so excited to be welcomed into the Beck family. I'll be, introducing into the community over the next coming months. I'm just very, very excited to get started and work with such a tremendous group of educators, families, kids, just the whole community. So thank you, everyone.
Okay, next we'll move into new business. Would any board member like to bring up new business this evening? Seeing no takers, we will go to old business, in which we will talk our next, the next installment of elementary redistricting, quickly becoming my favorite topic. So we had Ms. Friedel led us through a very productive conversation just 2 weeks ago. And I will summarize that it seemed like as we went around the board, don't leave. We understand. We understand. There's a reason my wife and kids aren't with me tonight as well. I mean, we understand. Have a wonderful evening. As we went around the board table just 2 weeks ago, then concerns that the board raised: transportation, short bus runs, considering time on bus, thinking about issues in terms of hiring bus drivers. These are all issues we faced this year and are top of mind. Diversity. We would like diversity, but to be careful of justice by geography. And so the importance of diversity within a system where time on bus and the geography of our town is taken into account for what it is. Special programs, making sure we're baking in considerations of ELL students, students with special needs into this process, and thinking about things like the next bullet point, which is student disruptions. Minimizing student disruption. This was a long discussion on the middle school side in terms of it's been a tough couple years. Transitions are difficult. And so we want to be respectful, mindful of that, using facilities as efficiently as possible. This was more or less the scaffolding that I remember from 2 weeks ago. And I believe this gives a good amount of direction to the administration. However, as we finish our action world of this month, there's a couple things I wanted to go around and to see Well, the first thing is, what is this moment before us? This moment before us is not to choose an option or to come to a final consensus. Really what we want to do is charge Mrs. Wethington and her team that's been working on this with what to bring back to the board, so that as it gets brought back to the board, it's more or less what we've asked for. And so I think there's a couple things to think about. One of it is, there is this, this choice between geography and short time on bus with what do we mean in terms of diversity? Do we mean, do we mean large transportation routes? Do we mean, so how do we think about that as we charge Mrs. Wethington and her team? I think one of the things I mentioned, but I think bears some discussion is there a look back period? Is there a kids finishing where they start period? We considered it for middle school. We talked about 2 years. Do we extend that same 2 years in the elementary school? There is obviously an issue in terms of transportation and routing that happens if we do that. And then I think the other thing is to think about neighborhoods of Cherry Hill versus clean geographic lines. So do we prefer that a given named neighborhood goes to one school, or is this much more of a geometric exercise to start with that then has some quadranting where it'd be like puzzle pieces, but it would be less puzzle piece-ish than if we considered neighborhoods. And so I think, there's just color that we need to think about tonight as we think about Mrs. Wethington and her team and the work that will continue beyond us. But I think those are 3 areas that I would just want to give everyone on the board a chance, either in person or remote, to just speak into so that we can hopefully get a little bit more direction. And I've obviously talked way too much. So who would like to start us off? Goodness. Okay. All right, Ms. Stern, thanks for volunteering.
My pleasure, Mr. Avadia. I think for me, some of the priorities, I would love to see our schools more balanced in terms of just people with different backgrounds and different experiences. I think the reality is it's pretty hard to get when you're trying to keep kids, young kids in their neighborhood. If their neighborhood is not so much of that, if that's not so much of their neighborhood, that's tougher. So I think it's an important thing to keep in mind. I also think it's really probably more important at this point to look at not having a major disruption for our students, especially these young students. So, we've talked about like different, some of the maps that just don't make sense at all. I don't know that we're going to move entire neighborhoods to different schools, but I think just coming back to what I said last time, kind of the, looking at the more balanced numbers in our elementary schools, that is a priority to me because some of our schools have many more students than other schools, and balanced in terms of the footprint, in terms of the number of students in, classrooms, making sure that, we don't have one school that has maxed out every classroom size, whereas another school that has, multiple open unused classrooms. To me, that doesn't make sense, especially if there's kids within a geographic proximity. I do want to say, I think this is going to be challenging, and I think it's going to be challenging on our budget, Mrs. Sugars, for busing. But I'd really, really like to find a way to try to keep our older students who've been in these schools to be able to finish in the same elementary school where they started in that kind of those transition years. So if probably at the point, if this is going to happen in 2023, 2024, I'm thinking the rising 4th and 5th graders for those years, I'd like to see those kids try to stay in their elementary. I know in the past, when students have been redistricted both here and in other districts, that sometimes hasn't happened. You've had 5th graders move schools. I really think it doesn't benefit our students to do that. However, that's going to come at a cost financially for busing. So, I think I don't know how to do that well, but it's something if we can do it, I'd like to do it. Because I think the older kids are a little bit of a different story from newer kids who haven't had as much time in the schools. I always think we have to think about our special populations as also staying in the schools where they've developed the relationships, where their families have developed relationships. Those kids have particularly difficult challenges with transition. So in our discussions, we've talked specific about English language learners and also students with special needs. I think those groups need to have slightly more consideration for all their grades. And that may not be as huge of a challenge if the programs stay located where they currently are for those students. So that may not be as much of a challenge. I don't know. I mean, we've talked about the neighborhood lines making more sense. And I think that's something that's come through with a lot of board members. When we look at the map, and some of the board members have been kind of looking at areas and just how do they make a little bit more sense. I don't think we're going to fix all of the things that don't make sense in our geographic lines, but well, you asked for me to go, so I gave a lot. It took a lot of time. That's it.
Okay. I'll just go next. So I think, to me, geography is going to be very important. I mean, I think if I thought of it in terms of an algorithm, I would say maybe not the closest school, but no more than the second or third, I think, within a geography like that. It's interesting because there's something about being very near a school too that I think has sort of emotional salience. But at the same time, it's got to make sense within our 12 school buildings and the geography of where people are going. I do like the 2-year look back. I think it's a courtesy that we thought was very important with middle school. I don't see why it would be different. So if you're going into 4th grade and you've identified as a Sharp kid, or a Cooper kid, or a Knight kid, it would be nice if we could figure it out transportationally, for that 2-year look back to exist. Now that creates potentially 2 difficult years for Cherry Hill. So that's not lost on me, is that doing it for middle, doing it for elementary, there is an overlap piece that means that roots get much harder for 2 years. And to me, that would impact a start time implementation timeline. I'm just going to say that. To me, I don't, I've lived in Cherry Hill for about, it's more than 15 years. And I love my neighborhood, but I'm more of a clean lines kind of guy. So if I'm in a neighborhood and I'm at the cusp of the neighborhood, or no, I'm sorry, I'm at the cusp of a line. So next to me, my neighbor goes to a different elementary school, but essentially everyone around me to this side is going to school with my kid. I think that's okay. Like, I think even if you've named a neighborhood, the numbers are unlikely to work out where neighborhoods could all go to one school. So I'm much more of a clean lines kind of person. Like, look at geographic cuts. Now, if that's not necessary and we can do it by neighborhood, okay. But I don't necessarily, just because we both believe, just because 2 neighbors are part of the same swim club, or they're part of the same soccer team, or whatever it is that people identify kind of on the neighborhood level, I feel like the clean lines, creates a certain amount of sense making. In terms of the special programs, so we have to do what's educationally sound, and I'm not an expert. So I think if there's an additional look back for particular programs in terms of kids continuing, I think that's okay, but I would really lean toward expertise in the district in terms of what that looks like. I don't have the one thing I'm certain of in all of my comments tonight is I definitely don't have the answer, but I'm willing to be educated. So that's kind of where I am with that. Who would like to go next? Dr. Rude.
So in my view, looking at the map of Cherry Hill has a fundamental problem in the distribution of the schools, where in the west side of our town, there's an entire elementary school desert where there are no elementary schools in close proximity to anybody. So that creates a problem, and that in and of itself, and coupled with that is that that happens to be one of the highest density areas, one of the areas with the most population growth, and one of the areas with the most economically disadvantaged, um, people. So that creates a huge amount of difficulty in this whole process, and I'm glad I'm not the one that has to draw lines. But when it comes to redistricting the elementary schools, I think one of the things, so we throw around words like equity and diversity, and I don't really want to focus on those in terms of characteristics, but I want to think in terms of making sure that every school has the same opportunities, and one of those opportunities is in, how many students are at the school. So in drawing the district lines, or the sending zone lines, we really need to make sure at the middle school level that we're keeping kind of an equal distribution of students across schools, not the same number of students, but such that we can keep our student to teacher ratios in a good place, that we don't have overcrowding, such that we can have similar programs across all of the middle schools. And part of achieving that is going to be done in drawing the elementary school lines, because that dictates the sending areas. So I think, especially as we think about elementary schools that are along the middle corridor that can maybe grab up some students from further west, taking some of the burden off the elementary schools that are all the way to the most far to the west, will paying attention to lines like that. So like Kilmer and Kingston, can they draw a little bit from further west to take some of the pressure off of Barton? I'm not going to get all the schools named right, Payne and others. So that in my mind is one of the most important things, is getting the numbers of kids kind of evenly distributed. And I think that'll solve a lot of the problems in terms of being able to bring similar programs to all of the schools, such that every kid in Cherry Hill is really getting a similar exceptional education. And of course, as these kids move on to their middle school and on to high school, they're going to have more and more opportunities to interact with people from other neighborhoods. So I think thinking about neighborhoods is important at this point in time, and thinking about, that a lot of people seem to have this, identity with a certain neighborhood and a certain school. But I think for everybody invested in this whole thing, whether it be parents, administrators, or students, that we all remember that we're all part of the Cherry Hill community, and we're going to have lots of opportunities to interact. So I think now I'm starting to go circular. So keeping a nice even distribution, looking at where the most students are, I think that's going to really bring a lot to the table in terms of making this work out really well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll turn to Mrs. Elmore Stratton.
Thank you, Mr. Avadia. And before I even say anything, thank you to my fellow board members for being understanding, allowing me to be from my home this evening. If I understand wait, I see lots of movement. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, we're good, Corinne. We can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. I guess if I understand the question from Mr. Avadia correctly, is it that you would like us to provide feedback on just what of those themes we'd like them to make more primary, or what exactly we expect for them to come back with? I hope that's, if I was understanding that correctly. And for me, the priority, we've already set the priority by having those categories. I think on a basic level, I would love to just have come back with the same type of SWOT analysis and options that we received with the middle school. And perhaps they can be grouped by those categories leading each one of those options for us to see them all across the board. So one option that solely satisfies us trying to achieve the best diversified option for all of our schools in terms of number of students that are represented that are differently abled, students from multiple races, cultures, and backgrounds. And then maybe having another option that solely focuses on having specific times for the busing to be as short as possible. And then maybe an option that shows what it would look like geographically if we strictly stuck to what is geographically possible in terms of what are the capacities at that school. That's what I would love to see. It would be most easy for me. And then perhaps just an option that kind of does its best to satisfy as many of those highlights that we pulled out as possible in one shot. I think we all can agree that there's not going to be any solution that's able to tackle all of those points that we pulled out or themes that we pulled out. And I just would encourage us as a board to, when we are looking at them, and even as a community, when we're looking at them, to know that there's certain things that we're going to have to select. It might be a poor choice of words, but we're going to have to make some decisions of one over the other. As I said last time, justice by geography for equity is not going to come out to what we're looking for. And that's not something that we can solve on the board or that our administrators can solve, because that's years of systematic way that the real estate in Cherry Hill has ended up. So I don't want us to dwell on that too much, but just want us to all be open to looking at each one of those options and then understanding that we're going to have to select, I guess, the one that disrupts the few. And in terms of the look back option with the middle school, that's something similar to what we did with middle school. I think ideally that would be a great idea, but I also see that that could be very challenging, especially if we're already going to do that with middle school students. It may create a larger headache for us to try to also do that. And perhaps we can look back at what we did when we, and I say we as a collective community, when we pulled sixth grade from elementary schools, if we had a option for students to be legacied over to remain in their schools, or if we strictly just pulled them and moved forward. And I say just looking at that because I don't want us to discredit the amount of resiliency our students do have. That we may be thinking that it'd be tough for them to get over, but it may not be as tough as we are perceiving it. So those would be my thoughts. And I hope I answered your question, which we're looking for then.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Elmore Stratton. That was perfect. Ms. Friedel?
So I don't want to repeat a lot of things that were said, just a couple of comments. I think Ms. Elmore Stratton's suggestion of the SWAT is a really great idea. Personally, I think like you, Mr. Avadia, I'm not so much neighborhood driven, but more geographic and what makes sense. I think I said before, priorities really need to be whatever these options are, what does it do to the capacity of the school? That is a concern I have with the 4th and 5th graders being able to stay at the school that they have. What will that do at capacity of schools, especially schools that are close to capacity? Again, they are probably more on the west side than they are on the east side, but we can have more students in the school than the school can hold, because that will get rid of your class ratio issues, as well as just some safety issues. I also wonder from a parent perspective, as I've mentioned, I don't have elementary kids anymore, but I did have 2 children in elementary school at the same time. It would have been a nightmare for me to have my 5th grader staying at the school that they were in, and don't remember what grade she was, 2nd grader, going to a different school. I mean, that could bring a whole other level of issues for families. So I think that raised it. I think again, mentioned, as you did, Mr. Avadia, we have leadership with expertise. So, Ms. Durham mentions the kids with IEPs and ELLs staying where they're in a community they know, but are there downfalls to that? Is it better for them to be at a school that is closer to them if that is an option, and so forth? So we don't have all the answers. So that's for you to bring to us, but I do think that the SWOT analysis is a nice idea to kind of lay it out there, what the options are and how that would look.
So I wasn't a part of the original conversation, but I read up on the goals that, or the wishes that you guys had. I think that was a substantial amount of information to provide guidance to administration. And now at this point, we really can't be like, I have these priorities over these priorities, because they're going to take all those issues and concerns that everybody has and build it into something. So we just outlined, we've already outlined everything. And then now it's the time for administration to get, their teams together and start working things out and presenting us with information. I've moved 3 schools in the past, like since before the start of COVID. So my kids did, they struggled, they missed their old schools and everything, but they're doing fine now. Like David, the school was wonderful in helping them integrate into their new school. Each school did phenomenal in doing that. The staff and principals have been amazing. So that's my personal experience that I'm sharing. So I've seen it from that perspective. It's heartbreaking because I was nervous as a parent, but I think I was more nervous than they were. So that's why I'm leaning on the expertise of the administration to kind of give us their perspective, because they're the ones that are going to outline it. I can't sit here. I can look at the map all I want, but that's not my role. My role is to lean on their expertise. And then it's like, then we'll talk about it. But I can't make any further additional asks when you guys already outlined all these things that, really do make sense in all the conversations we've had.
And then Mrs. Tong, did you have anything you wanted to share?
Yeah, I just want to make it brief. I do believe it is not the easiest way when we do something comes up like this with districting. So the SWOT thing that we have mentioned, that Ms. Corinne and Ms. Friedel have mentioned, I think that's a good thing to go through it one more time and try to see what is best for our students. I think it is not the easiest thing. Neighboring school is a great concept. I still think it's a great concept so the student can go to the neighboring school, but it is tough. So I hope we can do the best we can to help the students and the parents. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Tong. So I guess, Mrs. Wethington, Dr. Malash, or I should say Dr. Malash, Mrs. Wethington, I want to overstep. So I think, I think, if you allow me, but, so I think where we are, I think, Mrs. Arroyo is saying it right, is that we've laid out, some of them, we've laid out a metric of things that we're looking for. These will necessitate various options. And so I think we trust you. We want you to move the next step. But I think there's a function of time here. So we want, we have the scaffolding of middle. We now want to look at a couple options within the discussion that we've had last time and tonight, at a few options. And essentially within the next year, we've got to bake this into a house by house plan. And so I think, now is sort of a time to really think about what that looks like. And then we'll revisit it at some point. And I think get consensus around, much like we did with middle school, a plan that'll now feed the 2 levels. And at least as a board, that's really what we've committed to. So we're sort of leaving on the shelf, high school, we're leaving on the shelf, preschool. This will be so the next time we, so if that makes sense to you both, then I think we would charge you there and sort of wait for next steps based on your guidance. Does that make sense?
Mr. Vadia, I just want you to consider the concept of having 4th and 5th graders remain can be a challenge because of physical space. Like the physical plant at the elementary school is far different than the physical plant at middle school. So most of our elementary schools have growth spaces at every grade level, not enough for a full class. So if that's something the board wants, we need to know that because there's going to be physical plant implications that Mrs. Sugars is going to have to start thinking about. It's going to be budget implications also. Just to put that on your radar. And I say that because we're looking at elementary sections every week. And I could tell you at any point in time how many seats we have, and we don't have enough seats in a given building for 4th and 5th graders to stay along with the new group of kids coming in. Doesn't exist. In some schools, it really doesn't exist. So for that space equity that you're looking for, those two things are mutually exclusive unless you're going to talk about physical plant. Just want to put that out there right now.
No, that's fair. And that's so helpful for you to say. So I will say that I feel like I've carried the baton on the 2 years. Given what you're saying to me now, I'm okay with, well, should we do a straw poll?
I think that she just outlined exactly what is probably not possible to happen because of the numbers already. So even if I really believe that, like, even looking at, you had that document up that had the capacity and where we're at right now, that shows you itself. Yeah, it can't, there's just no way. So either you go full in and redistrict or you don't do it at all. And right now, so that's the commitment. Like, does this board want to redistrict and then look at this, or do you not want to do it? Because if you really want to keep those 2 years in, it's just, now you're talking about like, now we might need to build another school or add more classrooms, and that's not a thing right now.
Yeah, so what I would say is let's go around the board and just commit to that if we're ready to commit to that. And I think there'll be power in that. I mean, I think, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm in favor of redistricting and not forcing in the 2-year look back. That's my vote. Want to go next?
Sure. So I agree. I think it's part of why we have these discussions and we have them in this manner, is to bring all thoughts to the table. And, quite honestly, Ms. Friedel, when you said what you said, it was really a thought that made a lot of sense to me. And hearing it from Dr. Mahan as well, I'm absolutely in favor. I mean, I recognize it's tough and it's a lot of transition, but it potentially be for some students, but I think we have to be pragmatic as well. So I'm in support of foregoing that piece.
Okay, Ms. Friedel?
Well, I think I already said I didn't think it was viable, so you don't have to pursue it on my.
Okay. Mrs. Arroyo?
Yeah, I'm okay with that based on that information.
Dr. Rude?
So as I said with what I said before, I think that finding equity by making sure that the schools have proper distributions of students, and that means not overcrowding any of the schools. I think that's probably one of the most important consideration in terms of giving all of the elementary kids the best school experience. So if having kids stay for, because it feels good, is going to really disrupt that process, then I'm in favor of just saying these are the lines and going based on keeping the schools at reasonably populated. So I'm on board.
Thank you. Mrs. Elmore Stratton?
I'm fine with us not having the 2-year.
Mrs. Tong?
Oh, I will go with the flow because I think if we have too big of a crowd in one school, it will be a problematic things. So, or one student in one school and the other student in another school for the same elementary school, it'll be a tough thing. So I'll just go along with the flow, see what is the best for the student.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Well, Mrs. Wellington, so I think we're good. Dr. Malashi, you good?
I am. Yeah, I appreciate the discussion.
All right. So our next order of business is second public comment. Second public comment. Any topic, as it's underlined and bolded. Each comment submitted shall be subject to 3-minute time allotment. When the time light turns yellow and there are 30 seconds left to speak, you'll know it. When the time light turns red, the allotted time is up, and please conclude your comments. And so once more, we will alternate but we start in the room. Yes, this is it. You do not need to list any agenda item for your speaking. All right, the floor is yours.
Morgan. My children live in my grandchildren live in Cherry Hill, and one of them goes to Cherry Hill East. Here tonight because I have a concern about something that I had found out that happened at the school. It's about a survey that was taken by the students on February 21st, which is a little more than a month ago. It was called Self-Advocacy Lesson, and it was administered in my grandchild's language arts class. And there was some very sensitive questions that were on there that that my grandchild was upset to take. It was asking about gender and how do you identify yourself. The students were told that it was mandatory, and if they did not take the survey, they would be given a bad grade. The parents were not informed. My daughter was not informed about this, nor was a permission slip sent home to the parents. Now, my grandchild, well, as most of them in high school, are still minors. I would like to know, where will this paper go? Who will see it? Will it be kept in their files? How long will it be kept? Looking at the two questions on the survey, it really does, it shows more to me that it's the parents' responsibility and business concerning the welfare of their children. It's not really the school's place to ask these kinds of questions. It's up to the parents to guide, raise up, nurture their children. It is the school's responsibility to teach the education in respect to math, English, language arts, social studies, all of the educational topics. With this survey taken and filed, what does the school do? What would the school do if a child changes his or her mind? Can they change the answer and put in a new one? Because these questions were asking how they identify themselves right now. You identify yourself as this or that. What will happen in the future? What happens to this paper? Now, a brief description of the self-advocacy is listed in 7 points. Know your rights and responsibilities, learn and understand the system, don't assume anything, question everything, and ask to speak to a supervisor, start the paper trail, don't wait. Now, the first step is to know your rights and responsibilities, but if this is what really happened with these students, where they were told it was mandatory and the parents weren't notified and they had to sign
Thank you.
off.
Thank you for your comments.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, but your time has
Okay,
elapsed.
well, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Morgan, will you do me a favor, Dr. Mosh? Will you see Mrs. Wilson over there? Mrs. Wilson, raise her hand. Will you give her your contact information and your grandchild's name so that we can follow up with you?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Malash. Next, we have Alana Yaris on the line.
Alana Yaris, Cherry Hill. Well, most of my public comment is not necessary anymore, as it was discussed during your discussion for elementary school redistricting. I just wanted to state that I am thankful that during your straw poll, you moved forward with not including students staying in 4th and 5th grade versus everyone moving. I just want to state that I don't know how many families it would affect, but for my family, having a 4th and 5th grader remain in one school and possibly having the younger siblings move to a different school would cause a problem, not in terms of activities after school for the students, but more so the district has a tendency to schedule back to school nights and other activities on the same nights for similar aged students. So elementary schools for more than one school often would occur on the same night, and that would cause a problem if I have students in different schools, and I'm sure there are some families that have that now, so just something to keep in mind. Also, elementary school is different than middle school in terms of changes for students. So although it's difficult for students for change, middle school is not just changes within the school, but also changes in a student's body and personality and friendships. And middle school is just tough, and keeping those students within middle school for their full time is better. Elementary school, they're more easily adaptable. I just want to state, I don't know, based on conversation that the board has been having, it seems like the 2023-2024 school year is going to have a lot going on in terms of possible changes in school start times, elementary school redistricting starting, and middle school redistricting starting. And I don't know if anyone has thought about that, or if that is cause for concern for so much change within the district and things to get used to. And finally, a board member mentioned that most of the West Side schools are over capacity at capacity, and that another school would be key to the increasing size of the district. And I agree with that board member that another school, elementary school, is important for the district, especially on the West Side, where we have a school desert, where I believe either the Cole School or Alton School, maybe both, used to be. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll return in the room for anyone who would like to make their way up for public comment. Floor is yours.
Rick Short, 1002 Chilton Parkway. So my question, I'll reiterate my question is, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when the bond fails? What are you going to do if it fails? Because you're going to end up with the same HVAC problems. You're going to be spending this summer for 19 schools for some control modules that you don't need when you need better ventilation in Cherry Hill East if there's another pandemic wave. So I ask, why are we going to spend millions of dollars on control panels when we have technically, I guess, bad ventilation in Cherry Hill East? We do know before that the district has put humidifiers in East in the summertime. That is a fact. So why are we putting humidifiers in East in classrooms during the summer? I don't know. Are we turning the air conditioning down? Is the HVAC good in East? I don't know. And to expand on this whole redistricting idea and this whole redistricting failure, I mean, this entire thing goes all about back to equity and diversity. Your diversity has failed. Options 1, options 2, options 3 are complete disaster because you can't take the busing, you can't do it. All the board members go back around and around again. And then tonight we hear we have systemic real estate in Cherry Hill. So we're on the poor side in Kingston, and the performance of Kingston is at 50% for math. So I ask, I mean, when does it stop? When do we stop that we have to be diverse? We are where we are. We do the best with the people that we're around. You guys are obsessed with diversity and equity to a point that's beyond belief. And today was a great day because Dr. Kinde was brought up at Miss Jackson's Supreme Court hearing. He was brought up multiple times because Dr. Kinde has infected the school district. And right along with him as a race hustler, another good day was May 2nd. When Al Sharpton came into New Jersey and got kicked out by some Black activists because they told him to leave. Get lost, Al Sharpton. And that's the same thing I'm saying. Get lost, Dr. Kinde, and his beliefs and his anti-racist, because I don't know too many racists in Cherry Hill. And if I did know a racist, I would have a talk with them. It's funny that some people laugh when people think I'm a racist. But guess what? I get along with everyone. I'm friendly. So continue on with your diversity, delusional diversity. I wish you the best.
Thank you. On the line, we have Dr. Podowitz.
Hi, my name is Jeff Podowitz, and I live in Cherry Hill. I'm going some figures about state aid proposed came out. These are figures for 2022, 2023. I'm going to mention 5 school districts, and they all contain students from Voorhees, Chesterfield, and Cherry Hill. By the way, according to the state figures, we've been losing a little population. So are those figures wrong? What's going on here? Anyway, first Cherry Hill, we will be receiving basically approximately $2,800 per student. And as I recall, when the first year of SFRA, that was about the money we were supposed to receive. That was our uncapped aid, about $2,800 a student. That was years ago. Voorhees Township, Voorhees, their school, elementary to middle school, they get about $2,000 a pupil. They also send students to the Eastern Camden County Regional School District. That school district gets approximately $4,900 a student, approximately $2,000 more than we get per student in Cherry Hill. Chesterfield School District gets approximately $5,200 a pupil, or approximately $2,400 more a pupil than we do in Cherry Hill. That's a lot of difference. That's $24 million at our rate. Okay. Then we're talking about they send students as they get older to the Northern Burlington Regional School District. All right. They get approximately $7,700 a pupil in state aid. That's $4,800 more a pupil. In Cherry Hill, that would mean we would get $48 million more in aid if we got what they got. Total, okay? If you do a Google search for SFRA district profile, and go to Education Law Center, you'll see some numbers, all right? Required state aid versus uncapped aid, that's important, all right? We happen to have a higher percentage of ELL and FRL students than those districts, every one of them. So we have basically 3 out of 4 of these districts get more aid than we do, even though we have a higher amount of at-risk students. John Tremble stated in March 2020 in front of a legislative committee chaired by our own assemblyman, all right, that the state aid has not followed at-risk students into our community, and that has not changed. Even though we got more aid, our aid should not be cut. Our aid should be increased to what Chesterfield gets. We definitely should be getting that. Anyway, thank you very much, and just please consider it. I mean, we're still being cheated. That's all I can have to. That's all I have to say.
Thanks for calling in. Next to the room. All right, the floor is yours.
Andrea Weigel, Cherry Hill. I just have a question about all the redistricting, elementary, middle, high school. What are you going to do when a kid gets to high school and they get to choose? Right now, East has about 700 more kids than West. Can it get to the point where East just takes over or West just takes over? I just don't understand all the moving around when it's worked. If you made all the schools even, so that you don't have to worry, oh, this one's low, this one's high, this one has too much, this one has too little. Worry about the schools as they are now, and then you won't have any problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the line, we have Carolina Bevitt.
Good evening, Carolina Bevitt, Cherry Hill. I have 2 comments I want to make. First, about elementary redistricting. I would just like to say I agreed with everything Dr. Rude said. And I'd also like to call back a comment he made when you were discussing middle school redistricting about soft borders. I really liked that idea. So having, taking geographic location to schools into account. I liked his ideas about evening out the schools, drawing from the population that's not close to a school, and but allowing for some parent choice or flexibility where it makes sense or where it's possible. And then my second comment is just to appeal to the board and our administration to please advocate to the state to end the vaccine requirements and testing requirements for teachers. It's costing taxpayers, millions upon millions of dollars to test unvaccinated teachers each week. It's burdensome for the teachers, and it's widely accepted that discriminating against vaccinated or unvaccinated people is not useful. We're not at a point in the pandemic anymore where it makes sense, probably never made sense. So I would just ask you all to please appeal to the state to end that so that maybe some of our staffing shortages can be alleviated and we're not having teachers jump through hoops just to come to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone in the room? Yep, the floor is yours.
Yoni Yaris, Cherry Hill. Well done with the budget. It's really exciting 2 years in a row to be well below the 2% cap. I think it's important for us to broadcast it out more, that this increase in funding is helping from the state, and to get that as part of the narrative. I think it also helps in terms of going back to the state that you are going along with what Governor Murphy has laid out to reduce the burden on taxpayers. That I think that narrative needs to be spoken a lot more, especially as we head towards the bond season. Also educating voters that it's a soft, that the only hit is once, it's the X amount for wherever your cost is for the bond, just to really explain it and educate, because taxes are confusing. And to know that what makes up what's attributed to your state tax, the school taxes during the year versus what's the bonds going to be for. I guess a lot of education needs to be done. A lot of information also going back, which I had forgotten since I were not in Cherry Hill at that point, when Governor Christie rated, I think it was $4 million from the district that was in the reserves. And to know why we are so very conservative here and what we do about, because we've been burned so many times. We've had a lot of turnover, a lot of people come into the community. So I think that information sharing is really important. And to know the district has worked incredibly hard. Fair funding has worked hard, and everyone's really done their due diligence to make this better. And I think it's really started to show the last couple of years. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll return to the line with Anjana. Anjana, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. We need you to unmute. Oh, there you are.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay, thank you so much for taking my call today. I am just wanting to ask a question about the tennis courts at Cherry Hill East High School. I just wanted to know when they will be completed, because currently the whole tennis team, both JV and varsity, run to the Beck Middle School tennis courts and use those. But obviously it would be much more convenient if they could just stay at the high school and, run their warm up there. So, and just wondered whether that was township responsibility or our school. And I don't know if I get an answer now or later.
I'm glad
Thank you.
asked. Anjana, typically, Dr. Malash, our superintendent, will answer questions on the whole at the end. Next, we'll look to the room, hopefully.
Thank you.
And we'll go to Dr. Mintz on the line again.
Thank you, Dr. Panina Mintz, Cherry Hill. I have two questions, one regarding social emotional learning. Principal Guy at the Rosa Middle School have sent an email to parents regarding the advisory lessons that many parents asked to be privy to. I'm just wondering if the board have reviewed those lesson plans. They're from the Canadian Human Rights Museum, and one of the slides in that SEL lesson plan tells the child, if you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. I think that kind of material to say to middle school children is a little bit out of the norm. I was wondering if the Board of Education is privy to that kind of material that is being shared with middle school parents, middle school students without the knowledge of the parent. Second point is the level of excellence of Cherry Hill schools. I think I've heard Board of Ed member tonight indicate that Cherry Hill schools are exceptional. I wish I could agree with you. I will be sending you a full breakdown of the performance rankings of each school of Cherry Hill. The average score for math reading is below 70%. The average score for regular reading, math is below 70% for all 19 schools. and reading is below 70%. So I think we need to, as a Board of Education and school administration, we need to attend to basic education, reading and math first, before we jump into all these other current events issues. So I will be sending you the full breakdown, and I would love to get a response from you, whether the data that I'm sharing with you is accurate or not. But basically, the schools are scoring D's and F's across the board, and it's very disturbing. So they are not exceptional. We don't have one school that is in the top 1%. We have 2 schools that are in the top 5% in the state. That doesn't translate to excellent scores. Thank you for listening and paying attention. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, we'll go to Nick Gaudio on the line next.
Hi, good evening. Nick Gaudio, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I did want to echo Mrs. Bevitt's comments on the it being in favor of the soft borders and common sense geographical borders for elementary redistricting. That was number 1. And thank you, Dr. Rude, for mentioning those as well. I also wanted to advocate for the district lobbying Trenton to end Executive Order 253, also as Mrs. Bevitt had mentioned, which, as you know, is the policy, the executive order to require testing of all staff, employees, teachers, et cetera, at the schools. This is obviously, as you all know, it's ostracizing, it's abusive, and it's an unnecessary expense for the for everybody throughout the entire state, for that matter. And I would also like to ask the Board of Ed to pass a resolution never to reinstate the mask mandate under any conditions, as we have seen and experienced since the mandate has been lifted. The children are much happier and they feel safer in school. They feel that they belong in school, and they feel like they're actually part of a group that is experiencing something together, as opposed to being ostracized to their walled in desks from a figurative standpoint. And finally, I did also want to echo what Dr. Mintz said about the social emotional learning presentation from Rosa. That slide, I saw that presentation as well, and that slide was very disturbing, telling my children that they need to take action on something, even if they don't know if there is any truth behind it. So that was the gist. If you compile the data throughout that presentation and consolidate it into one message, the message was believe everything that you are told by somebody, even if you don't agree with them. And then in that case, you need to also take action. Otherwise, you're part of the problem. So basically, it's stating that you need to take action on something you don't believe in. Otherwise, you're part of the problem that may not even exist because you don't believe it exists to start with. It's a very contradictory presentation, and it's confusing enough for adults, let alone 6th graders who are receiving that. So that is all that I wanted to say, and thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. We'll go to the room. The floor is yours.
Hi, Jennifer Sharman, Cherry Hill. The last meeting, I talked about the social emotional learning, and I don't feel as though my views were taken correctly. So I wanted to make sure I restated a few things. The social emotional learning that I researched is intentionally from the get-go, from the start, it was supposed to be for teachers, a way for them to bond with their students, to figure out what is going on with them, how they learn, what's the best, situation for them to learn in, and to address any of those issues. And it seems to me that we're going past that into a whole social outside of classroom type of agenda. And I don't feel that that's appropriate. My main issue with the social emotional learning is the fact that it takes up, for some teachers, I'm not going to say all, but it takes up a lot of the class time for some teachers. And like what happened with my son, it was taking up so much time that the students were not able to absorb what they were learning. They were having to not be able to finish tests in time. They were not able to comprehend to ask questions because all the focus was on that. And honors calculus, you shouldn't be having to do presentations about all about myself for calculus honors class when you should be focusing on the math itself so that you can get into college or any other trade or anything else that you have to do. So my question is, why aren't we doing these social emotional learning the way they are supposed to be intended? And why are we, if we want to talk about other social issues or the students want to talk about other social issues, why aren't we doing it in with the counselors or in maybe a health class or maybe in a more appropriate setting where those discussions can happen? Not in calculus class, not in, chemistry or anything like that where it has no basis of any kind. Maybe history, maybe English, maybe other classes, but I don't see how every teacher has to talk about this relentlessly in every class. It's too much, and I kind of feel like it's brainwashing at some point. So I would like to know, and I also like to know what kind of limitations that the teachers have. How far are they able to go with this? How long in the classrooms are they supposed to be talking about this? Because it shouldn't be that a student or a parent has to call up and ask the teacher to please teach calculus. I shouldn't have to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go back to the line with Carolina Bevitt. I believe your hand's up again. Oh, okay. Anyone else want to come to the microphone before we? It might be. That's a good call. Nonetheless, they're calling on the same call sign. So anyone else in the room that's left that would like to comment? Sir?
Good evening, Dave Kuzmanich. You guys have seen me the past few meetings here. I know I have 3 minutes. I have 3 things I'd like to get through. We'll see if I can. First things first, redistricting of the grade schools. I think we need to keep our communities. My son used to go to a Catholic school and never hung out with anybody outside of school because it was so far away. You start sending these kids across town where they could have a school within blocks of their house, they're not going to get to hang out with the friends that they meet every day in school. So please rethink how you're going to redistrict. Secondly, getting back to our equal opportunity employment policy, 1530. The board shall ensure all persons shall have equal and bias-free access to categories of employment. I'm going to turn it sideways because my eyes are not that great anymore. Opportunities of employment, equal pay for equal work in the school district without regard to candidates' race, color, creed, religion, national origin, ancestry, age, marital status, affectional or sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, socioeconomic status, or disability pursuant to New Jersey NJAC 6A 7.1.1. The school board district employment applications and pre-employment inquiries conform to the guidelines of the New Jersey civil rights. The board, again, which is you guys, some of you may not have been here back in 2017 when this was adopted, the board will use equitable practices that prevent imbalance and isolation based on race, color, creed, here we go, religion, national origin, ancestry, age, marital status, affectional or social or sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, socioeconomic status or disability among the district's certified and non-certified staff and within every category of employment, including administration, promotions and transfers will be monitored and ensured for non-discrimination. So going to your cultural policy, equitable and charitable education policy, C-Peace is what you guys call it. Goal number 3. Does anybody know this one? Recruit, hire, retain staff of color, including teachers, administrators, and support staff, which goes against your EEOC policy. So let's get some of these policies in line with each other. Fix one, don't fix one, get them all on the same page. 7 seconds. I don't have time for my third part. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to go to the line for the person identifying themselves as Carolina Bevid. The floor is yours.
I'm sorry, it is me again, Mr. Avadia. I wanted to add one thing since I didn't use all my time. Is that all right?
Sure. Actually, you get a brand new 3 minutes.
Oh, great. I won't need it all. So I just forgot to add Carolina Bevid, Cherry Hill. I forgot to add that when discussing diversity and diversifying our schools, we have to also keep in mind that demographics are fluid. Not the same people are going to live in the same neighborhoods all the time. So, I would also just encourage us to, when we're, thinking geographically, thinking conveniently for parents and families, and also people do usually like where they live, they choose to live there. Just keeping in mind that demographics change. And so if you're, gerrymandering borders to have a specific diversity look at each school, that will change over time. So, then you might end up with the same problem we're looking at now, where your borders don't really make sense for the goals you're trying to achieve. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we'll return to the room. Yeah, go ahead. Is anybody else? Okay.
No? Am I? Okay. My son is a 5th grader at Woodcrest. Not going to put his name out there. He had a spelling word this week, or a definition word, I'm sorry, vocabulary word, defiant. The definition was showing hatred towards authority. I spoke with the teacher. I spoke with the principal. I don't think we need to be using the word hatred towards authority. I might be defiant to you guys, but I don't hate you. Okay. I don't hate your authority. Okay. So please, I don't know. They could not tell me where they got this definition from, whether it was handed down by the curriculum, whether it was handed down by previous teachers 20, 30 years ago. They had no idea, but they said they would take it under advisement. So if they're teaching something that's not in the curriculum, somebody needs to step up their game and check up on these teachers and principals. Thank you.
Thank you. That will end our public comment session 2 for the evening. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Malash.
Thank you, Mr. Avadia. Let me just go through if there was anything from the first public comment to address. There was a question about the wall project. I can answer part of that, the project, the change orders that was being finalized. We are finalizing the projects which began back in 2020 for this specific body of work. The projects, based on what was adopted tonight with the change orders, actually came in almost $35,000 under the budget that was originally assigned at that time, based on the change orders that were needed. I do not have the information with me tonight about whether it was part of the original discussion, and I'm reticent to comment on the other numbers that Dr. Potowitz provided. Not sure where he brought those from. So there's a couple of comments tonight about external air ducts, the rooftop air ducts. There was a theory that was posited by the speaker. I have not heard that external air ducts or rooftop air ducts have increased COVID, and any of the things that we've gotten or any of the information that we've gotten from the outside. We do know that there's a significant amount of work with our HVAC system that must be done. We spend quite a bit of time and discussion in the community and with the board about the replacement of that HVAC, which is a significant central piece of the referendum that will go out to vote on October the 4th. There'll be more discussion when the project applications come back in May, but certainly a number of reasons that were brought up about why the referendum needs to be supported because of the volume of work that needs to take place in the district. The district had nothing to do with the Supreme Court hearings today or the discussion that took place about Dr. Kendi in those. I'm not sure the relationship that exists based on what was said. The state aid figures, again, Dr. Potter has brought up about the state aid figures. I encourage people to continue to reach out to legislators. This is the opportunity to reach out and let people know about the importance of the funds. We did receive additional it's indicated that we will receive additional funds in state funding for our budget this year, which is significant for us. Our dollar per student figure is still lower than many other districts. I encourage people to continue to reach out. The legislators definitely benefit from hearing from constituents directly. Open enrollment at the high school will not go away. That will continue. Open enrollment at the high school has existed for more than 2 decades. Students have the opportunity when they either move into town or when they finish 8th grade to choose whichever high school, whichever the 2 comprehensive high schools in town they would like to attend. That will not change. The question about the tennis courts at East, I can certainly have Dr. Perry follow up with you or Mr. Brow. The work has been slow over the course of the last year with the repairs that needed to take place. Were much more extensive than were originally expected. And then there was certainly a delay with the materials coming in.
Dr. Malash, I'd like to add that at this point, most of the work has been done. We're waiting to do the final surface coating, and we need an extended period of 50-degree days in order to complete that work. So once the weather breaks a little bit and we have some consistent weather, we'll be able to finish up that project.
Thank you, Mrs. Sugars. Great to know. Question about a presentation from Rosa. No, the Board of Education does not review individual lesson plans for teachers. Was one of the questions that was there. There were questions about oppressors and being on the side of the oppressor if you don't speak up against the oppressor. Part of a larger discussion, part of a larger lesson, certainly that took place with what was going on. If there are specific questions the parents have, certainly reach out to Mr. Guy or to your child's teacher. There was another question about that presentation as well. And again, I encourage you to reach out directly to the teacher, reach out to Mr. Guy, reach out to the Rosa team. They would be more than happy to have that discussion with you. Social emotional learning is something that we are charged with pre-K through 12 in terms of what goes on with our students. The feel and the look of social emotional learning certainly has transitioned during the course of the last 2 years as a result of the pandemic, what children were forced to experience, what children have lived through, what families have lived through. So that has looked different. Any classroom is based on the connection that exists between a teacher and a student. An effective connection between a teacher and a student that we know through research is truly the most important thing about the level of achievement where that student can get to by the end of the school year. So trying to make sure that children are comfortable, have an understanding of what's taking place so that they are prepared and ready to learn. If there are specific questions about specific classes, again, I encourage parents to reach out directly to the teacher, reach out to the team at the high school and have those discussions. They would be more than happy to discuss that with you. In terms of a question about the equal employment information that was provided being in conflict with what exists in CPEACE, the Culture Proficiency, Equity, and Character Education Committee. The work of the Culture Proficiency, Equity, and Character Education Committee is based on district policies. That's not the writing of district policies. Saying that there's an intention to diversify the workforce is not in conflict with the EEOC requirements that we have in the district. I think that's it. Oh, can I just remind everybody, Mr. Abadi, next Tuesday night in here, beginning at 7 p.m. in the boardroom, we're going to have a town hall meeting to discuss school start time. Dr. Morton and his committee, one of the many areas that Dr. Morton was working on during the course of the summer and the fall and into the winter was about school start time. Presentation was done to the board. We have a community conversation that is scheduled at town hall, scheduled for next Tuesday, 7 to 8:30 p.m. It'll take place here in the administration building. We'll have live option for people to be in the room, also a Zoom option. Mrs. Wilson has been pushing out information via our social media. It's been in the newsletter. It'll be in the newsletter again on this Friday, but we encourage people to participate and share their voice.
Wonderful. And then we will have on Monday before the Tuesday, we will have a few board reps that are attending town hall for a special student recognition. So really looking forward to that as well. All right. Well, it is time for me to make a motion to adjourn and look desperately for a second. Dr. Rude, all in favor say woohoo, woohoo. All right. Good night, everyone.